Welcome to lesson 2, where I'm going to be showing you how to play a game called Mark the Trigger. In this case, mark stands for we mark the moment our dog performs the behaviour that we're looking for them to. So we almost take a snapshot of it. And the way we're going to do this is by using a verbal sound, or if you have a clicker, absolutely use a clicker. It's exactly the same thing. But this gives just a moment's sound that lets the dog know then is when you did the thing that is earning you the reward. So before we get going, just for those of you that don't already have your dog charged up to a marker, let's have a go. So what I do is I say the word yep, but we want to be able to take this word out of your dog's dictionary altogether in the future. So you do not want it to be something like good girl or good boy, because you want to be able to say that to them in the future. The only purpose of this noise is that it tells your dog you have just earned a reward, and then you give them the reward. And it just means that you capture the exact moment they did what you wanted. Whereas without a marker word, then while we're getting the treat out and our dog looks at the treat pouch, they might think that's getting them the reward, because our dogs will take whatever they were doing at the moment they got the reward, they're going to take that as the behaviour that they need to repeat, because that's what we're all wired to do biologically, is to repeat the things that make us feel good and give us a rush of sugar or dopamine. So let's get going. Now you'll notice the way I say the word yep almost makes it more of a noise, because I don't want my dogs thinking when I'm chatting to somebody and I just go, yeah, I don't want them thinking at that moment that whatever they were doing gets them a reward, because if I'm not paying attention, they could be doing anything. So I'm going to make it more like a noise. You can do whatever noise you like, but the main thing is that remember that this will eventually be taken out of what you say to your dog. So it needs to be something quite distinct and unique that you don't want to keep in the future. And all we're going to do is you're going to take that noise, you're going to make the noise, and then you're going to follow it up with a treat. This is called charging the marker, because we need to let your dog know that when you make that noise, that means that they've earned something. So I'm going to call over my dog and we're going to have a go. I say my dog, the dog that I have borrowed, the training dog for this video, but the dog that I have with me, and he is called Moose. Moosey, good boy. So all I'm going to do is go, yep, yep, yep. That one a bit bigger, yep. So he has gone, you definitely want me in a down for this, but don't worry, your dog doesn't need to be doing anything in particular. They just need to learn that sound, yep, means a biscuit's coming. Once you've done it a few times, then you want to see if it's working. And the way that I'd do that is by getting my dog to be a bit distracted. So you could get a family member to call them. But in his case, I'm going to, ready, go get it. Do that. And then you make the noise when they're not paying attention to you, and see whether they then come for a treat. I've thrown a treat, which is confusing for him, but let's give it a go. Yep. So I now know this is paired. Good boy. Because if I make the noise, even if he's distracted, yep. Good boy, he comes for his treat. He did finish eating the one that I'd thrown first, but to be fair, considering I'm throwing them for him, in an ideal world, you're not throwing food, you've got someone that's calling your dog away. So let's see if I can just get him away from me without throwing food, just so I can check for sure. Oh, what's this? Good boy. Good boy. Well done. Okay. Now I know that Moose knows what that means, so because we've done quite a lot of training together. So just keep going until when you make your noise, your dog goes, yes, what can I do for you? And then we are ready to start playing Mark the Trigger. You now know what a mark is. A mark is, for me, that word yep, said in that funny tone. And what I want to do is I am going to make that noise. I'm going to say yep. I'm going to mark him the moment he looks at a trigger. Now, we don't want to go straight out and do this with dogs because he's already going to be pulling and lunging at dogs, for example, depending on what your dog's trigger is. So a trigger in this case meaning something that causes a strong reaction from them, an emotional reaction such as I want to go and play, or I'm not sure about them and I want them to go away. That's what we're calling a trigger. But because we need to teach our dogs actually what's expected somewhere like here before we can just go and do it out and about, the example you might have seen in my email is we don't take a child to a toy shop and then start expecting them to be able to learn how to multiply fractions because the toy shop's too distracting and they are going to be too excited by everything going on to concentrate. So we're going to be somewhere nice and quiet. A lounge is perfect, a kitchen or a garden like I'm in, but just somewhere nice and easy. And all we're going to do is we're going to get a toy, not too exciting a toy. I've got a few levels in my bag. And every time your dog looks at that toy without jumping up, barking, anything like that, you're going to mark them and then you're going to give them food. So we're capturing the moment they look at that toy before they do anything about it. If you have your toy and your dog's already jumping up and barking, the toy is too exciting. So perhaps you've picked up a tennis ball when your dog loves a tennis ball. You need to pick a toy that isn't too exciting for this first one. We will build up to tennis balls after. Right, let's give it a go. Okay, I'm going to hold the toy behind my back. I've got my dog in front of me, obviously. And all I'm going to do is bring the toy out for a split second, and if he looks at it without jumping up or barking, just try not to drop it. Come on, good boy. He looks at it for a moment, you're going to say yep and give him a reward. So, yep. So the moment he looked, I said yep, and then I feed him facing in the other direction, so he's turning his head for the food. Yep. Good boy. Good boy. And if you go the other way, you keep doing it. And for now, every time we put the toy away, yep. And you'll say yep the split second your dog looks at it because you're marking the trigger. Yep. Good boy. And he's going to keep offering a down because he thinks I like him to lie down everywhere. Yep. But your dog does not need to be lying down. Sit is perfectly fine. Good. Yep. Okay, this time I'm going to keep the toy out because we've warmed him up. Yep. And I'm going to say yep the moment he looks at it. Now he found that too exciting, so I put it back behind my back. Yep. Good boy. Kelly picked too exciting a toy for the first one. Yep. Good boy. Yep. Good boy. Yep. Good boy. Yep. Good boy. Yep. Okay, now I've got different options here. If you're getting the same, where he keeps trying to get to it, we're going to either try and find a more boring toy, or we're going to have to move to higher value food, because I've got moderate value at the moment from our first session. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try another toy first, and then if that's not working, I'm going to try higher value food. Good boy. Okay, let's try a different toy. Ready? Yep. Again, I say yep, the moment he looks at it, I feed the other way. Yep. Good boy. So I said yep, he jumped up after. Now when you mark, you really should give food. So I'm just going to do a quick hand touch and give him some food for that. Right, this is saying to me, all the toys I'm choosing today, he's in quite a playful mood. They are too exciting. So instead, I'm going to go and get some higher value food. Okay, so because he was finding it too difficult with the moderate value food, I've now gone and got some high value food that we checked in the last lesson. But I've gone for the same toy for now. If he's still struggling, I'll need to look and see if I can find something less interesting. And this is what you're going to get from my videos. I show you what actually happens because I know that if I post just the seamless edited bits and the end product, then actually when you try and your dog is trying to get to the toy, even though you think you've picked the right toy, and they're struggling to take the food, even though you think you've picked the right food, hopefully you can see that actually in the early stages, it is about tweaking and changing what you're doing to get it right. So now, high value food, toy, let's try. So again, starts off behind my back. And I'm going to say, yep, the moment he looks at it. So I'm going to mark the trigger. Yep. I'm going to feed him facing the other way. Yep. Good boy. Yep. Interesting. He does seem to struggle more with it in that hand. So let's just do my left hand for now. Yep. Maybe I've played with him more on that one. Good boy. Yep. Good boy. Yep. Good boy. So now I can leave it out a bit. Yep. Start saying yep, and then turning his head as I give him the treat. Yep. Good boy. Well done. Good boy. Yep. Good boy. Yep. Good boy. And I can move it closer. Yep. And I still say yep the moment he looks. Yep. Which is normally straight after he's had the food. Let's put it away for a second there. Good boy. Well done. Let's give him a few seconds break, but hopefully that gave you more of an idea. So I'm marking every time he looks at it, and it's the moment he looks, because if he looks for even a few seconds, you've probably lost his ability to look away when you say yep, because he's begun to think of that toy, I want to play with that toy. And it's exactly the same with other triggers, which is why we practice at home first, because getting this right around dogs or squirrels or people or whatever your dog's primary triggers are is going to be a lot trickier. So we've got to build it up with this toy first. Let's do one more round. Yep. So I said, yep, the moment he looks, I feed the other way. Yep. The moment he looks, feed the other way. Yep. Feed the other way. Yep. And I am making this much harder by bringing it down. I can make it easier again. Yep. But the main thing is that I say yep every time. Good boy. And then it goes away. Good boy. Well done. Okay. So that's enough for now for him. I'm just going to let him have a little bit of food on the floor. Ready? Go get it. Just to take him into a different mindset. I'm going to put the toy away and then I'll finish chatting with you. Good. So that's how we play Mark the Trigger when it's just you and your dog. In an ideal world, however, you do want to play it with somebody else, because that's going to set you and your dog up better for real triggers, because a real trigger is not in your hand right by you, and also the head movements are quite tiny. Whereas in the next part of the video, you'll see how we could use someone else being the trigger to help you and your dog really build up that Mark the Trigger habit. Good boy. Hey, your good boy was that. So if you do have a friend or a family member who's happy to help, this is going to be a lot more realistic. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask my friend if she will walk back and forth quite slowly at the beginning. I don't want her too exciting. And I am going to mark every time Moose looks at her without going and doing anything, i.e. I'm going to mark the trigger. Now this is quite hard for him because that is actually his family and I'm not his family. So we'll see how he gets on. And we also have the distraction of another family dog, but let's give it a go and see if it's something that you guys can have a go at yourselves. Moose, good boy. Okay, sit. Good boy, sit. Good. Okay, so the moment he looks at her, I say, yep, I feed him in the other direction. Yep. Good boy. Yep. Good boy. You come back. Good boy. I said yep, although he moved, because this is a lot harder than it should be if it was just your friend. Good boy. Sit. Oh, well, you can have it first because I said yep, can't you? Moose, good boy. Hey, bud, can you do it? I know. Why would I get your mum doing this? Good boy. Sit. Sorry, handsome. Good boy. Right. Yep. Good. So the moment he looks, and she's got a toy, but I've given her quite a boring one because I want to set him up for success. And I just keep going. So let's see if he can look at yep. The moment he looks, I say yep. So I mark the trigger and I feed him facing the other way. And it's every time. And if he can't turn, I just put it on his nose, yep, and help him turn. Good boy. Yep. Good boy. Yep. And I don't have to say good boy, but I can, or I can just yep, let the food do the talking. Because he's struggling, I'm just putting it on his nose. Yep. Good boy. Yep. 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 Good boy. And then at the end, I'm going to go, ready? Okay, go on then, off you go. Just to let him know that he can go and say hello to her, because I don't want your dog thinking they're not allowed to say hello to the friend, but we just want to do the training first and send him off after. Boy. Good. Right. Now, this stage is going to be once you have really set the foundations with your dog at home, using either with a friend or family, or doing it by yourself if that works better for you. But you don't want to be coming out to somewhere where your dog's triggers are likely to be and trying to play mark the trigger until you've got the basics down at home. One, that helps you and your dog get the timing right, you understand how the game works, but it's also because that is actually going to start setting a bit of understanding in your dog's brain that makes them more capable of coming and doing it somewhere like here. Now, we don't want to up the difficulty too quickly. This is one of the issues people can have, is they teach their dog to do something at home and then want them to do it in a really busy environment. In the same way that you wouldn't be able to teach a child a young child their 4 times table at a school, but if you took them to the park or to Disney World or to Toys R Us and tried to teach them their 4 times table, then they're not going to be able to, good boy, because there's too much going on, too much stimulation in their brain, and too much that they historically behaved in a particular way. So if a kid goes to Toys R Us, good boy. No, we're not playing with him yet. If a kid goes to Toys R Us or any toy shop, I think Toys R Us might be shut. If a kid goes to a toy shop, they are used to having a look at toys, probably playing with some of those toys. And so their brain, when they get to the toy shop, says, I'm going to be playing with toys. And it's the same with our dogs when we go out somewhere. Now, I'm going to use these people here. If he has a look, I'm going to say, yep, and I'm going to reward him. And I'm going to put it away. Yep. And I just mark again when he looks again, although I think that was actually some music that we heard. Good boy. Yep. Good boy. You're watching the dog play. Okay, so now we're going to play with this dog over here instead. There's a dog having a ball thrown. So when we play mark the trigger, we have to change depending on what our dog is then finding more distracting. So now he's having a look at some birds, but I'm not going to mark them, but I am going to keep marking this dog over here that's having a ball thrown. Good boy. Good boy. Good, I'm going to wait for one more if I can. Yep, good boy. And that's it. I don't need to keep playing with exactly the same trigger. So now that he's got the hang of that trigger, and now he's feeling a little bit, well, more like he wants this food here, I'm just going to stop playing with that dog. But if another dog comes in, for example, you guys won't be able to see, and this is always the issue when I set up a camera, we've got a dog over here. It could be if he looks at that dog, I start saying yep. But otherwise, I now feel like he's coping in this situation pretty well. But if a dog was coming towards me and they were going to come too close, because we've only just come to the park, we've only just started playing Mark the Trigger, I want distances where I think he can cope, then I'm actually going to move if someone's coming too close. If somebody was coming as close as those that group were at the beginning, if there was somebody there with dogs, it might be that I go, actually my dog is not going to cope playing Mark the Trigger at that distance at the moment, that proximity. Training is all about building up the difficulty over time. So you can see again, because this dog is having a ball thrown for him, he's actually quite interested again. Let's play it. The next time he looks, yep. So I say, yep, the moment he looks at the dog, having the ball thrown, give him a bit of food. Good boy. Yep. He had another look, but I actually feel like he doesn't need this super high reward now. So he's just going to get a little tidbit. Good boy. Yep. And it's the moment he looks each time, the moment he looks at that dog, I'm going to say yep. Good boy. Just like we did with the toy. Good boy. And that is it. That is what I would like you to focus on. Now, again, practice at home first, practice with your toys, but when you're feeling ready, come out, but somewhere quiet. So I have not come to this park at peak time. I've come at a point that I know not many people are going to be here. If you can't be somewhere off peak, then instead you've got to look for a quieter area. You might even go to a supermarket car park and go and play with the people coming in and out of the supermarket. So it's about finding somewhere where your dog has a good chance of getting it right, because you are still building a skill at the moment. You don't want to rush, but when you feel ready, I want you to head out somewhere with a nice amount of distance and see whether you can start playing Mark the Trigger out and about over the next 4 days or so. So maybe spend 2 or 3 focusing playing at home, and then have a go out and about, but somewhere nice and far, and see how you get going before your next lesson comes out.